All right, let's go ahead and get started.
Till 29th, so that's what we're busy doing.
Welcome all to the Valentine's Day special of the Transit Technical Advisory Committee. Thanks for coming. Let's go ahead and start with introductions in the room. I'm Dana Trey with the Sonoma County Transport Authority and Regional Climate Protection Authority, and I'll pass it this way to Emily.
Emily. Rachel Eve with Santa Rosa City Bus.
Kathleen Sullivan with Marine Transit.
Chris Barney, ICTA, RCPA.
Jared Hall, Petaluma Transit.
Ryan Always, Sonoma County Transit.
Maria RC, Petaluma Transit.
Owen Christopherson, Smart.
Or Golden Gate Bridge Highway and Transportation District.
All right, and then let's go to the Zoom. Why don't we start with ICTA RCPA staff?
David, CTA, RCPA.
Adam Garcia, CTA, RCPA.
And then Sonoma County Transit staff,
Stephen Schmitz, Sonoma County Transit.
Golden Gate staff,
Jacob Brown, Golden Gate.
and members of the public.
Steve Bertelbaugh with the Transportation Land Use Coalition.
Thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is public. Are there any public comments on items that are not on the agenda?
Not that I can find.
All right. All right, so approval of the meeting notes for the January 10th meeting. Are there any comments or corrections on the notes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
That's Brian and Jared.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so moving on to regional funding, we have the call for projects for the Transportation Fund for Clean Air out. And with a total of $626,933. And then I will turn over to David to talk more about this call for projects.
Thanks, Dana. So Dana, know there's $626,933 available for the fiscal year 24-25 TFCA. We are not proposing changes at the time in the current TFCA policy, which guarantees amounts for Sonoma County Transit, Santa Rosa City Bus, and Petaluma Transit, and then a portion of funds for the competitive program, along with any funds that cannot be committed to a project within the cost effectiveness standards that should the competitive program. So this includes transit and bike facilities. There are some minor changes as detailed in your staff report this year to remove down-road truck replacement policy, define and expand the priority areas that really don't really affect us too much, but was a priority for the Equity Advisory Committee for the Air District to focus on AB 607 communities and disadvantaged communities, SB 535 and AB 1550. And also looking at simplifying the design guidelines for bike facilities and also upgrades from class 3 to class 2 bike lanes to a buffered class 2 bike lane. So the applications are due to us in March, on March 22nd. And we're happy to answer any questions that you have via email or now, but feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or suggestions on your applications. We plan to take, as usual, the recommendations to the T-TAC and TAC in April, followed by action by the board in May as part of our preliminary budget. And happy to answer any questions that you have.
Any questions on TFCA? All right. Thank you, David. All right, then we can move on to the next item, which is the preliminary draft TDA and STA coordinated claim. There's no action on this today. It's just preliminary with the draft fund estimate numbers from MTC. That fund estimate should be finalized, or it's going to commission at the end of this month. So at that point, we'll develop a draft and bring it back to this committee for action next month. but wanted to give you a chance to preview it and note if there's any comments or changes that need to be made on any of the exchanges. I think that you all should know this, but staff is going to recommend that this year we hold all the formulas the same as we have in the past. The STA formula that we had adopted was for a 5-year term, and last year was the 5th year of that, but we are recommending that for this year, we continue with the same formula. And this year, as we look at the TDA formula as well as the STA, we will look at both this year and make some recommendations for before next year, but really kind of spending this year working on that and holding the formulas the same for this year. So happy to take any discussion and comment on that as well, but just wanted to give you an overview of what you're looking at and let you know that we'll be asking for an action on this next month.
I was just curious, one, I know you talked about the TDA projections last time, and we've heard anything else on STA, and then two, any overall thoughts on this?
STA is in here. That's what's changed this month versus last month. And as Dan noted, existing agreements are going to carry through for this fiscal year. I would just note that there was a significant amount of carryover funds that were going to allocate 2.3 million in the STA funds. And also would note that SMART has got 5.9 million in revenue-based STA funds that were not claimed, or they're just sitting there. So I'm going to claim those funds. And all the project transit operators should be using SDA first, and then FDA, and the kind of last is TDA, because that stays in May. So we shouldn't really have a carryover, but
Yeah, I think our finance division is running behind the SGA claim, it's my understanding, but we haven't forgotten.
okay, good. And then I would say on the TDA, the prior year carryover balances, I noticed that MTC did not include the county's carryover balance, which we returned 3.3 some million last November. And so that's why there's a note there, but I would also recommend that Petaluma and Santa Rosa, if you return funds in the fall, it's not necessarily reflected here. So be sure you get check, see if the return funds, if you did, see if it's these numbers. If not, parents at MTC is the one that's dealing with that. So I guess this will come back to this group next month. And
Yeah.
then it goes to the or the
TPCC next month as well.
and then the authority in April.
Yep, and then it's due to MTC by May 1st, but we'll send it as soon as our board approves it. Joanne.
Thanks. Brian, to answer your question about the carryover, that is assumed in our FY24 operating budget. So we will be claiming it by May. And then I'm curious, Dana, you'd said this year will be the conversation on TDA modifications and STA population conversations. What's the venue in which that will be happening? Is that one of the, I'm just, because there's a couple of meeting processes going on. I'm curious when you are going to be talking about that.
Yeah, so I think that any decisions on that will be happening at the GM meetings that are happening monthly, and connected with the Golden Gates mascots.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's where.
I wasn't sure because that was a just North Bay wide versus SCTA vehicle, so to speak. So didn't know.
Yeah, so I think, there will be a separate, Sonoma County decision on those funding sources, but it'll be happening at the North Bay or Sonoma and Marin venues. Yes.
I just have a quick comment. I will be getting a proposal to Sonoma County Transit and Golden Gate for the transit mall operating costs. I should have done that last week and I have it ready and it'll go out this week so they can take a look and there might be an adjustment in that, that transfer. Just to know.
All right, anything else on the preliminary draft coordinated claim? All right, then, let's move on to item number 5. Regional staff coordination meeting representatives. There was a older list in the agenda packet and I just handed out a updated list, so thank you, Kathleen, for
Always open to more updates, if anyone has. But we're down to 4 pages, so actually, unless we go to smaller font, we're not allowed to add anymore.
We did actually add one when I went over this with Matt and Yuri, but it's probably in this. It was the C2 monthly program meeting, but that.
It is, that's one I added.
Excellent. All right, yeah,
So
great.
there's more than last time?
Hopefully it's
So
on
I
here.
put together, there's some extra agency representatives, so there's enough for one per agency. And that Kathleen was one of the-
Unless.
But this is,
I'll go make-
this is the list of what we have. And since we want to have a discussion
Yeah.
about who's on what,
Yeah, very cool.
like one of those old time skits.
I've been thinking about creating this and haven't actually done it yet. because we're already in the meeting. Although I'm not seeing the C2 program meeting on here, so there's a chance I forgot. Anyway,
And so the C2 monthly program meeting is actually on our list.
Yeah.
But that's just the monthly update one. There's so many flipper meetings.
Yeah.
With similar
I was gonna say
names.
probably has.
Yeah.
Did you add regional wayfinding meeting too?
Only the TAC. I
Okay.
think our agency was like, if you have a
Yeah, I think I
TAC, you
sent the
don't
wrong one.
also have us for
Fail
the
again.
other.
We need that, then that's what we need to do, because I'm going to wait.
I think the wayfinding is numbers 20 through 24.
Jeez. So I don't think this is the latest one, unfortunately. I think I sent her the wrong one. Okay. For the reprint. I think it's the same one that's in the agenda packet, so apologies for that. C2 program meeting was one of the ones that was added.
Okay, and is it the same C2 monthly program meeting that's number 22 on my list? Is there
So there's 3
so many
Clipper
different
meetings.
Clipper meetings?
There's 4 Clipper meetings. There's a Fair Program Staff Working Group, which is for Clipper Start, Bay Pass, and the Interagency Transfer Pilot Program. That's 25 on the list that was distributed.
And that's kind
There's
of-
the Clipper Staff Liaison Meeting, which is monthly, to talk about Clipper in general, but they talk about Clipper 2 a lot.
Yeah.
There's the Clipper Customer Service Education and Distribution, which is quarterly, just talking about marketing for Clipper.
I'm missing that one.
And then there is the C2 meeting, which I know I put on the list, and I think I just didn't send her the latest version.
And that's the
Yeah,
fourth
monthly
Tuesday.
program meeting, monthly 4th Tuesday. Yeah, that's your 22. So maybe I could start at the top, because these are kind of grouped by theme. So there's the new R&M council at the top. I did not include, these are just staff levels, so this doesn't have the R&M committee on it. It's just staff level. So the R&M council is technically staff. It's GMs and EDs, but it is staff. I could put the committee on here, but it's not on here currently. So R&M council, and then there's a series of general coordination meetings. So 2 through 5 is the large operator GM meeting, which now is still happening on Monday mornings. I participate in that, Nancy participates in that, Dennis participates in that, and Ron, I think, from Golden Gate.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone else here participates in that. The steering committee is basically the staff committee connected to that and the R&M council. So the steering committee meets weekly. I also think Ron participates in that. I participate in that. And then once every 2 weeks we meet with MTC on a Thursday. So that's the opportunity to connect with MTC about planning for R&M council agendas and the large operator GM meetings. We often talk also about things that can, if they're gonna go to the large operator GMs, they can also go to the small operator GMs. So that steering committee often will feed things into the small operator GM meetings.
Okay,
Yeah.
question. So it's been unclear to me, I mean, not that I want to go to extra meetings, but just to know, are these meetings open at all to other operators to listen in, or like, what's the setup of these? Or are they pretty much closed to the group that's supporting the R&M council?
So I think there is not a firm answer on that.
That's perfectly
I
understandable.
have posed the question and I think there is a concern about functionality.
Sure,
It's
absolutely.
a pretty small group. It's like
Yeah.
less than 10 people, it's maybe 10 or 12 who participate in that steering committee. It's very active. Everyone's like actively
Mhm,
talking and
mhm,
discussing.
mhm. So I don't
Um,
want people like blowing in and out and like disrupting the flow.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Okay.
So, and it's generally the identical to who participates in the large operator GM meeting. So it's
Mhm.
basically a staff person per large operator
Right,
GM
right.
plus 3 out. So I do think Ruby
Mhm.
or Melody participates from County Connection.
Right.
I will say, Weta does not consistently have a rep, but I think Mike Goerty participates sometimes in those, but it's basically mimics the large operator GM. And I have been increasingly trying to make sure that the things that they are talking about feeding into large operator GM and R&M council are also fed into the small operator GM meeting. And we could discuss, I don't think we could say anyone could participate, but we could discuss having a like, as we formalize this R&M council, having a more formal, like, is there any other small operator who should be represented on the steering committee feeding into that? Because it's sort of, we've come to this place where it's these 3 small operators representing everyone on all of these general coordination meetings, which may or may not be the right structure. But for right now, it's who it is. And then because that's who ended up on the council, it kind of continues to be that way.
Sure.
So then the small operator GM meeting, I think many of you participate in, and potentially some of, how many of you have a staff person participate and a GM?
Varies, depends on it.
To topics, okay.
Which number are we talking?
This is number 5,
The small.
the Tuesday afternoon, 4 PM meeting.
Okay.
It's, I think it's generally just small operator GMs, whereas the Monday morning meeting has like 40 people on it. There's the GMs and then there's many staff per agency, at least for the large operators. This one tends to be sometimes just GMs. Okay, so then 6 and 7, or I guess 6 through 13, I think are all meetings that originated during the pandemic when we were doing kind of quick response coordinated things on COVID response. So they are based on topics of different types of things we do. So the first two are service operations planning type of work. I don't know exactly how it evolved into this smaller group evolved. I have also gotten the question of is participation in this small group limited? Or could other people participate? But there's this core group that meets monthly. And then we just pivoted this larger group, which is basically the service ops or planning staff from every agency in the region, to being quarterly. It was monthly and it just wasn't feeling as effective. So this is the only sort of sub area that has 2 groups. All the other ones, as far as I know, just have 1. This BART service coordination meeting, I think I moved its location because it's sort of in a weird place right now. We can skip that one because I don't know. Do you participate? Does Golden Gate participate in the BART service coordination?
Yes.
Can we go, I'm sorry, can
Yeah.
we go back to 6 and 7 real quick?
Yes.
'Cause I have some confusion about this, because I know Matt is going to one of these, if not both of these, but maybe just the one, because I don't know if he's part of the core group. So is the number 7, the large group is continuing on
It
a
is
quarterly
continuing.
cadence.
Quarterly cadence.
And then.
Mostly
are
for
the-
like lessons, best practices lessons, like sharing. And sometimes people will pose questions, like, for
Right.
example, one recent one that came up is how's people's ridership coming back, and are Monday and Friday more mimicking Saturday and Sunday than they are Tuesday through Thursday? it was an interesting discussion. It's definitely not uniform across the region. Some agencies are seeing. Most agencies are seeing a bell curve. Some agencies it's pretty flat, like Monday is not that dissimilar from Wednesday. Some it's much more similar to Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah.
But there's all sorts of challenges with going to like a 3-day-a-week schedule and a 4-day-a-week weekend schedule. So anyway, I think that will be an ongoing topic of conversation, but it's discussing topics like that.
Yeah, so number 7 on the big file is the same as number 9 on the sheet I handed out. So as it switched to the quarterly meeting, it was renamed. What I wasn't able to get an answer on from Ron in time for this was what form that core group is still meeting.
Right.
Because I know Ron's push was for both of the meetings to just completely go away because we have so many other redundant meetings on the topic. But he lost that battle and it went to quarterly, at least not monthly. And I don't know what happened with the core group, but the origination of the split was that at the beginning of the pandemic, it was meeting weekly.
Yeah.
And then it was felt that it wasn't necessary to bring in the larger audience weekly. And then that's why it's, then it became offset.
Like every other.
Slowly drifting to fewer and fewer meetings for both. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think the big group tended to be really big, screens off, very little.
20-something people.
And so it was sort of like, okay, are people getting something out of this? And I
Yeah.
think we determined people are, but maybe people will be more engaged on a quarterly basis. So, but we only held 1 quarterly meeting, so now we'll have a 3-month break and this one will probably continue to be a discussion.
Okay, thank you.
I did, looking at yours, I don't have
Wait, sorry,
CEB or.
Was there already a quarterly one? Because I never get Robert Del Rosario's emails. Because I'm supposed to be going to it. If it happened
Yes,
already.
there is a quarterly meeting. I
Yeah.
think one happened this year.
Well, the MTC Transit firewall is a nightmare.
It's a thing. It's a
Yeah, so
challenge.
Maybe that's what I'm.
Okay, because I honestly don't know, like, if half his email ever comes
I think
through.
he renamed it though. I think
Yeah,
Yeah, it
well,
was
now
today,
it's,
Yeah.
yeah,
So glad we're having this conversation.
he called him many times to get information that he-
we could propose, this is not an uncommon firewall challenge. We could propose someone else organize the meeting, even if Robert continues to chair it. Because I think no
Yeah.
one wants to take over chairing it. He's done a really good job.
Yeah.
Although he might be wanting to give that up. But the AC Transit system has blocked a lot of people from consistently understanding. They have the wrong invite. They don't get the new invite.
So amazing.
Yeah,
It's
so,
still called the Blue Ribbon Task Force meeting on my
Caucus?
calendar.
yeah,
Caucus.
Yeah.
that's the wrong
Yeah.
meeting.
Right.
He did resend a new one.
So I must not have gotten that.
So I can take that on of talking to Robert about,
Yeah, that would be.
and I'd be willing to be the invite originator.
Because that's weird, because I get all of the stuff from Andy Metz, but I don't get anything from Robert Del Rosario, so I don't know what's going on with their system.
Well,
over
he
there.
emails me every 10 minutes. I feel like.
Yeah, actually,
An hour of my day.
Yes.
Yeah, good.
Okay, I'll talk to Robert about that, and I wouldn't mind being the originator of the invite if he'd still be willing to be the chair.
Yeah.
And, I realize I don't have CEB or Fair Integration Task Force on here, which I should probably add.
Yeah.
One thing I don't see, I think it would fall under the umbrella of Golden Gate strategic plan, the discussions we've been having in the corridor is the new marketing group. That's getting off the ground.
Oh, yeah,
Should we
yeah,
use that one?
I don't think I added it to my list either, but it's supposed
Is
to
it
be.
on?
Not, that's the regional one.
Yeah.
So,
number
and-
12 is the-
I thought we were supposed to be adding.
No.
Well, that is a big question, is this meeting, so with the exception of BART, this doesn't have any sub-regional meetings on it. And I'm sure if we opened the door to that, there are probably a lot.
Well, there are a lot.
I think there are a lot, and like VTA might meet with
There are.
Caltrain, and we don't, yeah, so I think,
Never mind.
Scared already.
yeah.
I mean, I included mascots on mine just because I feel like that's all of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise, I mean,
Like
Mark's not even on my
T-TAC
list
is not
for that
on here,
reason.
for example, like this is a perfect example of one that's not on here. And so we could create it just for our own tracking, like create a list of the ones that are just North Bay specific.
Yeah, I think
Um,
that would be the marketing group that just started, T-TAC, mascots
And GM.
and the GM one, which,
Yeah.
which I have.
Yeah.
Information.
I mean, I find those helpful. Honestly, for us, I feel a lot of those are more relevant than a lot of these large regional ones that we don't often participate with, and frankly.
I will say, per SB 925 language that was discussed yesterday. Participating in those, I mean, what the second question on called was, sorry, language got all mixed up in that sentence. Is basically saying to get any money, you have to participate in all of these. I mean, not all of them, but that's where I think if we have a coordinated approach and say, this is how the North Bay is participating in all of these, then we can check the box for SB 925,
Exactly.
be eligible for funding.
Right.
If they are gonna formalize the requirement, it actually makes this a very timely conversation.
Totally. Okay, I have a question
Yes.
before we move on. So I just heard that there was a regional marketing meeting,
Yes.
a new one. But is that different than
There's not a
Alicia's
new-
marketing and communications meeting that's already on here?
No,
Oh,
the
okay,
new
so
marketing
it's not
meeting
here.
is one that Julia Gonzalez is setting up.
No,
for
no,
Smart.
okay, so the no new regional meeting, the
Correct.
one led by Alicia is still the regional.
Correct.
marketing. Okay,
Yeah, the one I was talking about, I guess we'd call it sub.
yes, okay, I just got
For the
confused.
one
Thank you.
border.
Just because we took a diversion of talking about North Bay meetings, you also have Sonoma County ones, don't you? Related to whatever you're currently calling ties. I know ties
Yeah,
was the original
Transit integration
transit integration project.
project. Yeah.
Is it? Okay.
Which is a weekly.
Weekly?
Weekly,
Oh, okay.
mostly.
Does Smart participate in that? Or is it just?
Just bus, but we've brought Smart in for certain topics, so it's a time that's held for whatever needs to be discussed.
Yeah. So just in terms of assigning people before we move on, so service ops planning core group, I know Ron participates and I participate.
What number are we on?
6, going back to 6.
Okay.
So Golden Gate and Marin Transit. So I basically think 2 through 6 are Golden Gate and Marin Transit. The general coordination, does everyone send a rep to that? I know Emily goes.
Matt goes.
Matt goes.
Yeah, we have 4 people from Smart who attend. Smart Band.
We do not currently attend that one.
If you start getting Robert's email, will you go?
Potentially.
So now, oh, wait, so now we're moving on to, okay, no, we're gonna cross Bart off of this one. Finance, funding and budgets, we don't have anyone who attends that one. Or marketing communications, 10 or 12.
I didn't even know the finance budget meeting was a thing, so that's new information.
I didn't know about 12.
So we don't have anyone going to. Nor have we ever been invited to go to that.
Well, I've never learned who leads that. It's a
Yeah.
meeting that, there's a chance that one has gone away.
Which one?
Number 10.
Is that the, so I have one called, oh no, that's different. T-TAC funding. Is that the same, that's different than the transit finance? Wasn't it?
Correct, that's on here also.
Okay.
That's number 11, and we do send
Oh, yeah.
staff to
Oh,
that.
that's right below it.
Yeah.
There's so many meetings and I'm just overwhelmed.
I'm gonna ask someone if this meeting exists, because I've been trying to get an answer on that, and given that I haven't gotten an answer, that might mean it doesn't exist anymore.
Are all T-TAC meetings coordinated by MTC?
Who?
MTC,
Which ones?
all T-TAC meetings?
What's T-TAC?
Well,
Transit
like 14
Transformation
through
Action
16, 10.
Oh, those are jointly led with a transit operator rep and a MTC rep. So each
Okay.
of the TAP initiatives, I think they're revolving to calling it the TAP,
Okay,
just eliminated a
Right.
T.
the first T is silent.
Yeah, the first T is silent. I did have, before we skip to 14, I was wondering, does everyone send someone to TFWG, Transit Finance Working Group?
Yes.
Yeah, I figured. And then, does anyone send anyone to the regional marketing and communications meeting?
I think we do. I think maybe Matt chose that.
I'd be interested in going to that one, but I hadn't even heard of it.
Yeah, I didn't know that was going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think emailing Alicia
Alicia,
Trost.
Yeah, I will.
Would be the right way to
Yeah.
get it added. She works at BART, so you shouldn't have a firewall issue.
Yeah, we sent somebody. Actually sent 2 people.
That sounds.
Does anyone send anyone to BATGAT? The Bay Area Transit Government Affairs Team. That's where a lot of the measure has been discussed.
Okay,
Yes, we
Sorry.
sent people.
yeah, well, maybe Joanne, but doesn't MTC have a separate ledge committee?
A committee at the commission level?
I was thinking more, maybe it's BATGAT I'm thinking of. I thought there was another staff level ledge body of some kind, but maybe. that's
This is the one I know. This is
Okay.
very active.
Yeah.
They
so that must
definitely,
be
a
it.
lot
That
of
must
key
be it.
items go to this.
I
I would
just-
say,
Okay.
I think in people's minds, BATGAT and the steering committee are the primary locuses of
Okay.
where like big topics get discussed.
Okay,
So if I had to rank them importance, I
I
think
just-
13 and the steering committee are the 2 staff level meetings where the most substantive items come.
okay, that's great. I think I just hadn't heard the acronym BATGAT before,
Yeah.
so that threw me off.
It's a good acronym.
It's an interesting acronym.
I first heard it when I typed the spreadsheet for this meeting.
Okay, now we get into TAP initiatives. So there's 2050, which has been passed on to SMART. God bless Emily. And David
Mhm.
continues.
I'm somehow still going to that.
Yeah. Then there's the transit priority work, which there is the original group, which is basically dealing with funding, like they collected all of our transit priority projects. They're working on, they have just selected sort of a high priority. They got 90 submissions. They're down to 24 that are contenders for the money, but you have to basically be shovel ready to get the money. So that's about the project side. They've created a new one, which is to create a transit priority policy. And I believe Golden Gate is I think the GM decided Golden Gate is staffing that and
Right.
reporting back. And I will say the GMs have been discussing transit priority and are going to discuss it again next month.
Okay.
Okay, wait, can we go back to 16 though, to
Yes.
find out who's going to that? Because I.
Oh, yeah.
Matt,
We are staffing.
so Marin is staffing, Matt has been going for that for City Bus. Anyone else going to bus AID Transit Priority Working Group? Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, and so we decided that since bus aid is basically evolving into the priority policy working
Mhm.
group, it's just the exact same meeting invite, straightening everything.
Oh, it is? Is it?
And
It's
so they've
collapsing into one meeting?
They've renamed it to Transit Priority Policy Working Group.
Oh,
It used to be called Transit Priority Working Group.
okay,
But in parentheses, bus aid.
okay,
And so we're still sending Emily Del Ross to that with me as the alternate. I know we had originally talked about Ron being the representative.
Yeah.
But since there's that continuity on the MTC AC Transit side, we decided to just keep the continuity for us. And so, you can still reach out to me in this venue or by email if.
But it's still there's still a separate transit priority working group, or now there's just one for the policy and the
say,
funding.
Yeah, well, I think it's technically bus aid is separate from the policy working group technically, but it's literally just one continuous invite on Outlook, at least for us.
interesting.
Yeah, yes. Because originally we
Well, that's
expected
good.
to transition from Emily with me as the alternate to just Ron,
Mhm.
but we're just gonna keep on trucking along until it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And Emily's aware that she'll be representing Marin and Sonoma Interest and not just Golden Gate
Okay.
as part of that process.
All right,
So perhaps 16, 17 are the same meeting. On my
Okay.
spreadsheet.
awesome.
I want to double
Yeah,
check that we're all looking at the 122-24 version. My number is a little bit off from what they're saying.
We're
Sorry.
looking at the
No, but
12,
that would be the version I
agree.
wanted to.
So that was the handout should have been the,
The handout was the
12.
12-19.
I've got two birds, yeah.
12, 19, 20.
okay. Sorry about that.
Oh, maybe it wasn't, that would make me happy if it wasn't my mistake.
Um,
That's okay.
I think now we just have to keep
Okay.
going though. on the-
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we're
agree.
going.
We're-
Sorry about that.
We're in it now, then we have to the end.
I'm the only one that has a correct one. Okay, sorry about that.
So 16 and 17 were originally separate because they were concurrent in December. And then I don't think we actually met a second time for the priority policy one versus just a regular priority. list.
Yep.
But now they've,
That's good because.
one
the-
instance finally of consolidation of all
Yeah.
of these meetings.
Well, I think the bus aid work was really hot the last year and now it's kind of
Exactly,
sunsetting and the
yes.
policy's picking up, so
Perfect.
it makes sense that it would take
Yes.
over. Okay.
Yeah, and just,
Then we might end up participating in that then because we participated in bus aid. So I
yeah,
can
and I'm not
clarify.
sure what process MTC and AC Transit, well, I say AC Transit, but you know, the regional rep, I'm not sure what filtering process is officially occurring, but I think the transition is this month's meeting between the two projects for the purposes of meetings. even
Got it.
though
Okay.
Bus aid is kind of still there.
Yeah.
In terms of the form.
Okay. So then there's the number 18 is the transfer plan. I know Smart has been sitting on that.
Yeah.
I think that's it. From the, oh, and David. Okay. Caltrans District 4 is also developing a transit plan. I know we were invited to participate. I don't think anyone else was. There are other transit operators on it. I don't think there are any other North Bay transit operators.
Just by Sonoma
I
County.
think I've attended one meeting. But I,
Oh yeah, Sonoma. Are you participating?
Great.
Okay.
So we'll have company then.
What's that?
We'll have company then.
Yeah.
It's really just Caltrans facility, so probably just the two of us.
And I think they've only had one meeting, right?
They've only had one meeting.
Are they looking at service and operations or mostly infrastructure like park and rides and?
My
things that be
impression
like-
was it was more infrastructure oriented. It's like a 2050 plan. So
Okay,
we'll see though. I mean, we've only had the one meeting so far, so
okay.
it's a little bit of a black box still.
We have some highway interchange areas that are super problematic where we would love to see some projects happen. So we might want to, I don't think we want to be on this committee, but we might want to tap into
Yeah,
it.
definitely.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, once we get to a step where we know what's going on. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't anticipate going to many of those meetings, but I am curious to read more and hear more about Caltrans's approach to like highway service and park and rides. I've never felt I understand well what their kind of approach to park and rides and investments are.
You know what, Dana, do you think we could have them at the appropriate time come to T-TAC to
Yeah.
present on this?
Mhm.
Because I think there's not a
think
good
it would be great.
understanding of what it is, and that might just be good feedback for them.
yeah, definitely.
As well, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Can reach out.
I know that Mika and Joel, who are leading the transit priority work, so in this structure, you had asked Jared, is MTC leading all these? So Joel is the MTC rep, Mika Miyasato was hired, so she no longer has her old job at AC Transit, but still works at AC Transit, so she's the operator rep.
Okay, she's fully funded through MTC though.
I think,
Like Andy?
I think that's what must have happened on the back end, because, I think she went through a formal application process as one of the candidates and her funding for her position must have transitioned over to the MTC funding.
Okay.
So Joel and Mika are leading that. I know they're working very closely with Caltrans.
Yeah.
So, we just, if we invite them, we might want to just let Mika and Joel know or coordinate with them also. Just to see, is there a most strategic moment? Are they going to be making presentations, a round of presentations to boards and things at some point in this process? Maybe we could slot into that. So just a thought. Okay, so then mapping and wayfinding. I'd actually love clarity on whether all of these meetings still exist.
Yeah.
This is not one I personally have tracked. Robert has been following it at our agency, but participates a little bit sporadically. I think he is mostly engaged on the one of these that is about the subcategories, like regional subcategories of service, like how to slice and dice all of our service into different categories, because he's been involved in that since it started several years back. I'm not sure which bucket this falls under.
I've gone to like most of them, I feel like, and it's a blur of
What's it?
because they cover the same thing in multiple, they just kind of focus on one portion, maybe highlight it more, but
Yeah.
there's a lot of overlap in them, so But I've tried to get in the habit of just pull the slide deck to verify, and that's all still sit in, but I think
Okay.
most of them are still operating.
Okay.
Yeah, well, so I talked to Melanie, who's a rep, and I'm the alternate, because we've been working on this since the beginning of
Yeah.
time. I basically put in a request with her at the next TAC, although it sounds like the next TAC just got canceled, so I don't know what's happening, but at the next TAC, they have that discussion about these working groups. They've kind of said that they plan on transitioning away from using them, but I basically made a request to Melanie to discuss officially dropping them because we don't have the bandwidth for 5 meetings when we already have.
Yeah.
the TAC.
Yeah, it's too many.
Is the project management team the TAC?
I thought it was called the PMT. I think that's the one we designated Matt as our
Yes,
official rep
That's my
to.
understanding, but what's the TAC?
The
then?
TAC is the one that started in December. That's,
I think that's the PMT, the
The
PMT.
PMT is the TAC.
Is it called the TAC?
it's called the TAC.
Okay.
Yeah, they've called it,
I think it's tax.
yeah, the invites say TAC on it.
Okay, great.
Okay, Matt is going to that, and we decided that Matt would represent.
The North Bay, that's sort of, that's our official.
Yeah, so.
And aren't you the backup?
The backup.
Yay, Emily.
Mhm. But you know, I mean, I glanced at the agenda yesterday and it's all bus stop differentiation, right? So it's better for him.
Yeah.
He'll be there.
Yeah. And then theoretically, 21 through 24 might go away or merge.
Yeah, I think 21, the goal, and I need to check with Melanie, I guess. Well, I'm not sure, I guess the TAC tomorrow is canceled, that's my impression, but.
That's right, I just saw that. didn't
Yeah, so I guess in 2 weeks and a day, we can find out, if 21 through 24, or if MTC is okay with those just not existing anymore.
Yeah, or alternatively, following the service schedule, I mean, the service ops planning model where there's a TAC. And then quarterly or something
Right.
in less frequently, anyone can participate and just get an update on the. I've been getting updates on it a lot because it's been going to the RNM. Cause it also, you end up getting all the information, if anyone's gonna make a presentation to the RNM, then it goes to the steering committee and the MTC steering committee and the GM meeting, all of those.
So, and just a comment on those 21 through 24. So I may not have the most recent info on this, but just talking to Matt, because we're in some additional conversations because of the Santa Rosa prototype site for the regional mapping and wayfinding. Oh, cool. It sounds like there is still maybe some work going on. I mean, it sounds like there's still, MTC is still wanting to engage with a larger group of operators because they're still deciding things like the
Yeah.
layout of the bus flag
There are
and,
definitely still
and so-
decision points.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it sounds to me like, yeah, maybe they're gonna need those larger group opportunities for comment a little bit longer until there's more of a consensus on some of those aspects of the prototyping.
Okay,
So just for what it's worth.
yeah,
But I agree, after that's done, I think it should all, collapse a bit.
so I'm gonna just leave it on here for now.
Yeah.
With the question mark. Okay, so then we get into fairs and Clipper. This is one where the new list that was just handed out will be slightly different.
Can we just switch to the new list since we got.
Yeah.
It's a roundly updated list for everyone, so it's.
So I think we're on, I think we're on
gonna be left on this
24,
one.
Yeah, I think that brings us to 24 and then.
24 on the new one.
So we're going to the new one.
Yeah, switch to the new one as of 24. So there's a fair program staff working group, which is again, Clipper Start, Clipper Bay Pass, interagency transfer pilot.
Matt is going to that as well.
I go-
So is,
And
okay, so it sounds like many of us go to that, and I think that's good. I don't necessarily, well, I mean, we can talk about whether we want to streamline some of these, but if we streamline them, I do think we want to have an official report back.
Yeah.
yeah, but I think
Process.
they're worthwhile condensing for sure, as long as it's a clear report.
Yeah. See, the CSL meeting, I go to that.
Okay, that's one we have a hard time with because we have a standing conflict with it.
It's on a Friday. so
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
where-
and it's,
Yeah.
so, we might actually, if you guys are solidly going to it, is it?
I solidly go to it because it's such a big transition for us. And I'm happy to report back.
It's super great.
Cause I think we're actually getting to the rubber hits the road part of Flipper finally,
Yeah.
after having participated for a year now of they always feel like 10% of the information is useful. They're starting customer transition. So I actually volunteered to be a pilot tester because I'm a smart rider. So Smart's one of the tests. There's 5 agencies that are testing. They're basically just did agency staff / friends and family, like, you know, inner circle to test the cards in case it doesn't work. They, you know.
Yeah.
And so, I volunteered. I haven't actually gotten a card, but I think I will. They're sending them out pretty soon to test the new cards on Smart. And they did. So do you participate in the CSL? Does anyone at Smart participate in CSL? Super staff liaison. It's Friday.
Heather does. Yeah.
There's a lot of people on that meeting, and so
I
I
think
I
that's
never
her.
necessarily look at the full list.
And I mean, I've gotten a million emails about this testing starting, but it hasn't
Yeah.
actually started,
Yeah,
but it's gonna start.
it's, is it Golden?
Yeah,
Gold-
Ferry.
Ferry. And then the others are other parts of the region.
Yeah, sorry.
But I think the big thing to know is, they might not work. And so just for your operators, I mean, Ed was very, very happy. They had like videos at the last CSL meeting about him working, that they tapped a credit card, like it's working. But I think the heads up is there might be some users of the system
Yeah.
who might have 2 Clipper cards, because like I'll have my Clipper on my phone and I'll have a test Clipper card. So just for all of your operators.
We keep notifying them.
Yeah.
Every time I notify them, they say, I thought this thing had started already.
Yeah.
It's starting, yeah.
So they have a date, they have dates. I think Smarts was March 10th or something like that. Golden Gates was a little earlier. Smarts,
That's the 5th or something.
they're all rolling out by, I think March 10th is the latest rollout, and it's gonna be an 8-week rollout.
So it includes open fair payment. Is what you're saying.
Apparently,
Hallelujah.
yeah.
Great.
And the first tests have worked. Ed was very excited.
So you can use the
Yeah.
credit card on the Clipper reader.
Yeah, it does not yet work for the general public. It will only work for like the special ones that the testy ones.
Yeah.
So. But I do think they're gonna start getting in, Clipper rollout is extremely complicated, but they're gonna start getting into more detail of like, how are we gonna train everyone on Clipper? How are we gonna, what is the marketing plan that MTC is gonna do? So we can see if we wanna supplement that in some way with some more local outreach and marketing. I think it's all gonna start becoming a little more real, in the next several months, so.
One question on that, with
Yeah.
the credit card tied to your Clipper card and your Clipper accounts, like if an agency has an accumulator at some point.
My
would they
understanding of
both tie together.
My understanding of the credit card is it will accept general fares and accumulator, but no discounts.
Okay.
So you can't like get like a senior discount or a youth discount, but you can get an accumulator, and then you can just pay a standard fare. That's my understanding of the credit card piece.
Yeah, it's if you have any special products, you need an actual Clipper or something.
Okay.
So if you're just a Joe Blow adult
Yeah.
doing a single ride or an accumulator over the course of the day, then yes. it works.
And I did confirm that you don't need to that you can just get a Clipper straight onto your mobile. You don't have to get a card, which at some point was
You
true.
did
You had
have
to
to
get a
go
card
and
in
you put it
transition.
on.
They've got done away with that already.
Yes.
So right now, if you go on their website, you can,
And is it correct that everyone who has a normal Clipper card is gonna have to switch over to a new type of Clipper card?
it should be seamless. That's whole customer transition is so important because they want for anyone who's a current Clipper user that they will never know.
Really?
They will never know the day that they go from C1 to C2.
Oh, I thought there was something like they could only process 1,000 per day. And it was gonna take them
That's
6
all on the
months.
back end. So basically, there's gonna be a date at which they say we're customer ready, and they're gonna start transitioning batches of cards on the back
You
end.
don't need a new card.
You shouldn't
awesome.
need to know anything. So what they will do is at some point on the back end, they will say, card 69, whatever. They transition it, and the next time you tap, your card is now a C2 card,
Okay.
and you'll never know.
The only card change was if anybody still had a green TransLink card, those were transitioned last year or sometime. I know as we had somebody on our bus passenger committee who still had one. He's like, oh, I got the email saying I had to switch it out.
20
I'm
years.
like, I'll just hear-
eBay.
I'll just hear still like
Yeah.
one piece, but.
So just to clarify, I go to that. Who else? You have someone who goes?
So, sorry, which one? is
So
it?
at CSL?
Yes, we do.
And someone,
We don't go, but I used to go.
Okay.
I haven't going.
What number? Sorry.
25 on the new list.
Right.
Yeah, that one is recorded, so usually what we do is we have somebody who goes and then we have somebody else who listens. so
Yep.
that- Because there's a lot of useful information in there sometimes.
Yep.
And we have to, we don't have a single Clipper project manager. I feel like Clipper would be a lot easier for all of us if you just had
Just
a
one.
Clipper project
Yeah.
manager for each agency, but that's,
There-
none of us are big enough for that, so.
If there was one primary Clipper meeting, would that be the meeting?
I think so.
Yeah, that's probably the one, yeah.
Especially, and I think if it's ever been useful, I think it'll be useful over the next several months in advance of rollout. I will also say, Bart. And Bart in particular, just because Bob Powers leads a lot of he's the current R&M council, chair and the GM in more informal meeting chair. Is starting to put a lot of pressure
On that one.
vocally on MTC to make sure they meet the Clipper 2 deadline. So I think it'll become more of a topic that's discussed in more forums as we get closer and closer to that go date. Okay, then there's the CESD is the Clipper Customer Service Education and Distribution. We went to our very first meeting this month. It was not me.
Okay.
It was one of my staff.
I go all the time, but
You go.
I've been always going. I really like this meeting.
Are they talking a lot about Clipper 2 marketing?
They will, right now they're really focused on Clipper
Clipper Start.
But
Yeah.
it's a really great, I mean, it's the customer focus, the education piece. So it's a little far down the line in terms of making decisions or timelines. It's about, but they do take input. How do you want the marketing to look and collaboration? So I go to that one.
Okay.
I think Matt has been going to that as well, but we might,
I'm happy to.
if you like it.
Report.
you're
I do
there.
like it.
Okay, great.
Marketing or paratransit
Yeah.
related, I love.
I'll check with Matt. We might want to just coordinate on that one. Yeah. Okay, awesome.
Great. I'm also happy to report back, but you can be our official.
Awesome.
Okay. The C2 monthly program meeting, I did add it. I didn't put any details because I didn't know anything when I put this on here, but there's a row for it. So it's,
It's on mine. it's
I've never been clear on what this, I didn't know that it existed.
Row 22 on the one I sent.
It's the third Tuesday of the month from 10 to 11.
Oh, 30.
Third, not fourth.
It's fourth.
I'm looking at my calendar.
Is it
Unless they
mostly
moved it.
technical IT type stuff?
It's one of those meetings that could probably just be an email. It's like a monthly calendar update, basically. And it's them saying, oh, the deadline pushed in November, but we're gonna try to move it back to September, and then it's the same story.
Okay.
So I would recommend not doing it.
So
If you
I
can.
think it's redundant with CSL, to be honest.
Well, yeah,
to tell them that they need to just do CSL and make that, and I don't know.
Even for their own staff, I feel so
Yeah.
bad sometimes when you see the same staff presenting again and again on their side too.
I can ask, I'm happy to ask, them.
yeah, that would be great, yeah, we've been struggling with because we actually send 3 people currently to the C2 monthly, because there sometimes is very technical stuff that's theoretically covered, so we have to send an IT person there, and
Yeah, and then it's
it's
not
just,
useful,
it ends
right?
up being a conversation about a schedule.
Yeah, we kind of have that same issue because our IT person sometimes goes to those and sometimes it's beneficial and sometimes it's just, yeah, it's all over the place.
Oh, you know what the difference is? Cubic attends. I did ask Ed, I already asked Ed this question. I just had to look up what he said. He said it's a regional meeting, overall regional update from Cubic. So I do think it's important for people like Bart, for whom this is like a really, most
technical.
fairs is really important to them, and Clipper, huge amount of the riders are on Clipper, so we tend to try to have more focused topics for all operators in the CSL meeting agendas.
Cubic attends 25 CSL.
No, Cubic attends
27.
27 C2 monthly program. So I think it's basically like a accountability with Cubic for the operators. That personally is not important to Marin Transit, so we're gonna stick with CSL.
Okay.
I would say others could potentially be empowered to quit attending that
Mhm.
and let Bart carry our water for us.
I'll have a
Yeah.
conversation at our agency, because we might still just send one person,
Yeah,
and then we could report back.
and more of like a technical person might be appropriate
Yeah.
because it's the Cubic.
Right.
It's the only, I think it's the only FaceTime operators get with Cubic,
Mhm.
potentially.
Okay, I like it.
I'll work on that one, because I don't know if the IT person that we're sending is the right person for Clipper, but there's been some staffing changes there. But I just wanted to get somebody from Golden Gate there that's useful, that I could actually share something to take back
Okay, so Golden Gate's the official C2 program meeting, if anything important
I
happens.
mean, because if we can funnel it down from 3 to 1 person on our end, that's already an improvement, and then you
Yeah.
guys can just disappear from it.
Great.
Because we're probably the most, for us, it's probably more important than a lot of the birthday operators because of the quirks with ferry and
Yep.
limited use tickets and that sort of thing. There's a lot of complicated technical things for us
Yep.
that won't apply to the other birthday
Yep.
operators. So
Yep.
if anybody's there, it should be us.
Yeah, great. Okay, so next is T-TAP, on the TAP accessibility. BayPAC is a longstanding, way pre-pandemic meeting that has continued to be the forum for, coordination on ADA and older adult transportation. We go,
You're good.
Yeah,
okay,
That one is helpful.
that one is, I feel like is
Yeah.
useful for.
multiple to attend.
Yeah, because I think you have different concerns about your specific area. They do make decisions, which is great,
Yeah,
but it's quick moving, so I think it's worthwhile.
we got an update, to Drennan, yesterday at the small GM meeting, that it was either there or the steering committee on Monday, that the idea is at least being discussed of coalescing a co-project management structure similar to all the other TAP initiatives for this. Because BayPAC was such an easy forum and they just filtered it in there, and I think Drennan leads it.
Yeah.
But there's no agency co-PM. So the same, since it's now a TAP initiative, I think the idea is at least being floated. I don't know if they will land on something, because that person would need to be funded then. But to have an operator co-PM lead to make sure the operator voice is as important as MTC voice in that.
There wasn't much discussion. It was only about 10 minutes at the small operator GM meeting yesterday on it. I don't know if people didn't have comments or they just weren't up to speed, but yeah, they talked about it Monday, but not much discussion on it other than just comments.
Yeah. Oh, I thought we ran out of time too. You mean yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, and then there's the Regional Mobility Management Group, which is also a very long-standing group that I think has gone dormant, but is active again, apparently. Is getting active again was the update that I got. Is anyone track that?
I don't know
Yeah,
that meeting.
not tapped into that. I mean, we used to be, but not since it's gotten active again.
Yeah.
How would that be different from maybe BayPAC?
I don't, well, so I think it was specifically to talk about mobility management, and I think it included people or agencies like nonprofits, not just in cities, not just operators. And the only place I could see this, so per Drennan's update yesterday, it does sound like they're gonna be updating the coordinated plan and maybe putting some, there's ideas like one mobility manager for each county and things, which I don't think every county necessarily has one of those designated yet. I know we do in Marin, it's us. It's our kind of transit travel navigators, but maybe it might be an opportune moment for that group to start talking about mobility management again in light of the coordinated plan, which also I think the coordinated plan also tends to be something does a lot of vetting with nonprofits and more of the service, social services agencies who tend to be more of the front line with the folks it's intended to serve.
Is that one particular person at Red or as an agency, you are the mobility manager?
With an agency, we're the mobility manager.
Okay. Yeah, because I've seen it where it can be that, or even one particular
Separate.
person is under an agency.
Yeah.
And I know we do get a lot of questions about Golden Gate and a lot of questions about SMART via our travel navigators. So we've never formalized it as being the travel navigator for all three of us.
Yeah.
We are for just Marin Transit, but we end up fielding, I think those folks end up fielding a lot of questions about. So I think there's more discussion to have here, especially given what we heard yesterday from Drennan. And we might want to have a discussion purely about this at a future T-TAC maybe, or
Yeah.
today, if we have time.
Yeah, we've discussed in the past, we're definitely interested in a shared travel training mobility position. But
Mhm.
something that we've been discussing recently is the possibility of having a shared North Bay, more like an ADA coordinator position. I mean, the Golden Gate, do you have an ADA specialist on staff?
Yeah, we have an ADA manager, yeah.
John.
John,
John.
who does
But
the ADA stuff and then the paratransit contracts for in transit.
Like in terms of reviewing facilities and services for ADA compliance, does he do that or do you contract it out?
It's a mix. He,
Mhm.
some of the, he does, but he's just one person. So
Yeah.
we actually did do a contract right before COVID for our bridge facilities
Mhm.
and the bus stops in that area. So
Mhm.
it's a mix.
Yeah,
Because we also have a traffic engineer
right.
type person on our staff as well, but again, it's, you know, we're just big enough to have those positions, but not big enough to have them really dedicated to particular tasks.
We have our engineering division has traditionally handled a lot of that stuff, but that's not, you know, that's not their main job, right? And then planning side of kind of comes in and legal, but we're just not big enough to have that position, right? But anyway, I wanted to throw that into the mix of the
Yeah.
shared mobility sort of resources.
I wonder if we could either use some of our mascots meeting or set up another time. I think it would be worth having a chat just about this, and I would love other folks from my agency to participate. Because I do think it could be a really strategic coordination and effort, but I think we each need to bring the right people from our agencies and talk about, you know, what's the right approach. And what resources do we already have, and is there better ways to leverage that, or is a new combined position you know, a good idea?
I mean, we're supportive of it, especially if we can get funding from MTC to help fund something like a new position. We go that route, like a mobility manager.
And just a note on that, in Action 25, our notes are due, and I know it says for us, you and City Bus, that it says we are not interested. So I sent an email to Yuri and Stephen to maybe modify that.
What is it? Website, what is it?
Well, the Drennan presented a paper about the Action 25.
That's the name of the report. Okay,
Right,
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
report, and
Yeah.
so she's giving us till, the 20th to make her comments, but I think because the interviews were during COVID, I mean, it was a different
Yeah,
situation.
yeah.
So
Okay,
we're
okay.
listed as not being interested in having a mobility manager, but I think it's worthwhile.
In Action 25, have one mobility manager for each.
The
I thought, wasn't Action 21 the mobility manager one?
Well, it's part of Action 25 as well. There's like overlap in
Okay.
weird ways. So it's the recommendation is in Action 25. So
What's the term again for the overall plan?
it's like mobility manager.
Yeah,
The plan now?
The coordinated
Oh,
plan. It has more
Bay
words.
Area. Something.
Coordinated
transit-
human services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just vague.
They update
Coordinated
every
plan.
few years and maybe postponed an update because of COVID.
The update is going to come out soon.
Yeah.
is
Very
my
soon,
understanding. Yeah, they've been working on it and.
Yeah.
um,
But I think it's been a while since they updated it.
I think so.
This one I know has been in the works for like a year, I think.
Yeah.
That's one where we're concerned that they're calling for required
In-person.
in-person assessments as part of the paratransit evaluations, because that's one of the things we're not that interested in going back to.
Yeah.
So if you're looking for a mobility manager, what that looks like, I would suggest like, what are the goals? Because a customer facing side is very different than like an ADA and services and, that's a different skill set for sure.
Yeah, and I think what's in the transit transformation action plan is more the mobility manager side, right?
Right, the like customer facing
Right,
side
customer
and
facing.
in-person assessments, that kind of
Yeah.
thing. But I think there's still a need for that for sure.
So that's it. And this is where I put the sub-regional meetings, I put at the end as bullet points, so that if people want to put more bullets at some point, they can, but I did put Marin Transit Golden Gate last Monday of every month and Smart Golden Gate. And then I could add the ties one on here.
Great.
Marketing one.
And the mascots.
Yeah, I could add all of them.
And you might as well add this meeting as well. right?
Yeah, I had mascots, general managers, mascots, staff, T-TAC, marketing, and transit integration project.
Perfect.
Sounds great.
Thank you so much.
Emily, for the smart PG one, is it just somebody from the ferry that you're meeting with currently, or is there?
You know, it's a marketing meeting,
Okay.
but I attend to talk schedule changes, right? Because that's what the question is. And then there's people from scheduling on your end.
Okay, so you're in the bus.
Yeah. Well, there is, but I think the name of the woman who.
Carolyn.
I think she was there, yeah. I don't know who's replacing.
Okay, I'll look into that, because that might be something that with Carolyn retiring, I I think Ferry's gonna be doing some restructuring, so maybe that,
Yeah, I
you
think,
might wanna move around who on the gate side is going there.
I think that's the meeting though that we want to expand into being the North Bay marketing meeting. I
Oh,
honestly
okay.
don't think it needs to be just a Golden Gate Smart meeting because we talk about larger initiatives.
Right.
So let me talk to Julia about that.
I don't think she's actually set up that or initiated setting up that meeting.
No,
Mm.
not yet.
I mean.
Yeah, that wouldn't
let
make
me
sense.
put
to
that.
me.
She's supposed to report out at the GM meeting on the first, on what she's doing.
Good.
So,
A deadline.
yeah, the deadline motivates the
Yeah,
spirit.
She's been in New Orleans all week at that conference, so probably left. I think that would be that's a good meeting. I mean, it's a productive meeting with Golden Gate. But it would be good to have the other operators there because it's things like, we're promoting this event in the city.
Yeah.
You know, it's marketing
great.
focused. So I think it's every other Friday, 11 to 12.
So then we'll probably have our marketing staff on there, so probably Dana rather than Mike.
Yeah, and Dana's on there
Oh, she's already
now.
on.
Yeah, and Melanie Austin.
Okay.
Mhm.
I was just comparing to your list to see as a final cut, to see if we missed anything. And
missed
your
it.
number
You did.
12, your number 12 at least has a, oh. Is
That's
this-
the regional one. I think number 12 on my list is this regional marketing.
Okay.
one that we-
That's the one led by Alicia.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, which. This was the name that was given to you. I'm assuming that the meeting invite is called that. Although, never say never.
And then what's 16?
Great question. It is, here, I have an email from.
It might be the
Terry.
same as it might be
Yeah.
my unknown
MTC.
number 9.
Yeah, I got an email from Terry about this yesterday. The Terry said that Terry and Eric, who I guess on our end. Have worked on this previously. It sounds like something that hasn't met for a while and they weren't expecting to meet again for a while. So I don't know if it's the same thing. If it's an active meeting, then it's probably a different one. Yeah, all they say is this group has not met since November and has no meeting planned currently. And then Terry said that she expects that type of information will probably go through the transit finance working group
Yep.
instead. So
That meeting might,
it might be going away.
yeah. I might cross it off.
Yeah, I'm tempted to as well. I left it on just because they didn't say it's dead, but I don't know. I think there was some question because of SB 125. I think maybe that's why they still kept it on their list
Yeah.
on our end, even though it sounds like it's going away.
Makes sense.
I think everything else on yours is on mine.
Wow, that was awesome. Very helpful.
We didn't take the step of determining whether I think the only one we talked about that multiple of us go to that maybe we should streamline was the fair programs one. About Clipper Start,
Oh, the
Bay Pass, etc.
yeah, the Clipper 2.0, what's it called? The Clipper
Yeah.
2.0 monthly program meeting?
No, the Fair Program Staff Working Group. I think everyone should quit attending the C2 monthly program.
Yeah,
meeting.
yeah.
That's
No
just
one
my
should.
personal, yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're my prohibit.
Sorry, it was
anyway.
such a long list, I had forgotten about the previous.
Yeah,
discussion.
so the Fair Program Staff Working Group 24 on my list. I do think we would like to keep attending that, although it's not always relevant.
Yeah, I was on that yesterday and I had to say something. I have to attend, you know,
Yeah.
and then Matt Wilcox was on it too.
I think Asha was on
I
it
think
too,
it's important.
yeah, for many.
Okay, yeah.
Because there's some of these, like we said, the Bay Pack is worth multiple attending. Maybe with this one also is worth multiple attending.
It's for now, there's a lot going on.
Yeah. I just wanted to,
For those who can't make it, you now know who is, and we can report out as needed.
I'm not saying this has to be a strategy, but it is sometimes like if I get on a meeting like BayPAC and I can't, and I see Matt or you're on there, or Steven, I'll message him and say, I can't be on this. Can you brief me later? And I think that should be something that,
Yeah.
you know, is a process. I'm always happy to take notes.
yeah.
Great, that's great.
Right? That was maybe the most productive item that
Yeah.
we'll have today.
A meeting,
Thank you.
a productive
About
meeting, a
meetings.
productive meeting agenda item to talk about meetings. I don't know, it's kind of the meta.
Yeah. Indeed.
Well, thank you. All right, then let's go ahead and move on to item number 6, which is the MTC Transit 2050 plus update.
Oh, just before we bounce, so apparently they sent out multiple invites by accident, so the regional mapping and wayfinding group is still meeting tomorrow.
It is.
It's just the additional invites were canceled, and the actual one is just for the record.
Oh, I don't have it on me.
I don't
I'm
have
gonna
it.
pretend I didn't hear that. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go.
Maybe you could get asked a question about like the 5 rows on here and see if they have any.
Well, yeah,
clarity.
so that's the thing, so Melanie, I'll touch base with her again today, just as a reminder. But that's still an open. Sorry.
That's right. So Emily or David, do you have any updates you want to share with the group on the Transit 2050 plus?
Where did we leave it last? There was, since I think the previous update, I had such good notes last time we talked about this. But there is another, I'll call it workflow question that's now outstanding to the group about the network, the NPA, which is the
NPA.
the
What
network
does it stand for?
Performance assessment.
network performance assessment. See, somebody still remembers. And so there was some question about the timing of the NPA or network performance assessment relative to the project performance assessment. And they floated 2 ideas, like one doing it sooner, one doing it later. There's pros and cons to both. I think the later option upset the TMT the most because, I could have just sent MTC a spreadsheet and just been done with Transit 2050 plus. And never thought about it again if we choose the later option. Because then there's what would happen is if the NPA, which is kind of the big new part of Transit 2050 plus versus Plan Bay Area, if the network assessment isn't done earlier in the process, then it just ends up in a report that follows Plan Bay Area. In which case we could have just done the connected network plan and pulled the plug, 9 months ago when
12.
I think Liz floated the idea first.
Yeah.
So the struggle is real with that one, but that's probably the big item. They did actually cancel the next PMT meeting to get more time to prepare content for the actual NPA. I don't know. I'm looking at you.
I know, I'm looking at my notes. For the language, the recommended network, right? Or the preliminary network.
The preliminary,
When I come up to
yeah.
it in March.
So so we're gonna meet in early March rather than later this month. So we're skipping one since it's every 2 weeks. And then the other item for Transit 2050 plus is more related to mascots, which is we'll have a meeting about what data we can harness from Transit 2050 plus for the mascots plan. And there's like these screen line analyses and these travel market analysis that should help inform, despite Sonoma County being lumped into just one single travel shed, there should still be enough information in there to help shape some of the effort with mascots. And I mean, even for our agency's perspective in the screen line analyses across the Golden Gate Bridge and the Richmond Bridge, I think there's already some data that's interesting to see that can help with future service planning. Obviously, Transit 2050 plus is at a very high level, but it's clear, where some demand exists and where some demand doesn't exist. And one example to kind of test this theory is, to looking, since it's current 2023, so almost current analysis. One thing I thought was interesting for the Golden Gate Bridge screen line analysis was that there was Toddy had very little demand across that screen line. And that really does match up with our actual ridership patterns in Sonoma County, where we have almost no activity in Cotati, but we have a lot of people coming from Petaluma, Roanoke Park, and Santa Rosa. So that initial smell test for me kind of worked out. So it's good to see that we're going somewhere with this, hopefully, even if it's not for Transit 2050 plus.
Yeah.
And I don't know if there was anything else.
I don't think, I mean, the primary issue for the North Bay seems to be this, that almost our entire county, Sonoma County, is one travel shed, and so the analysis really isn't very meaningful.
But the screen line is more segmented because they did by tract
Yeah, but the screen lines are only at the borders of the
county
and
then the bridges.
So yeah, exactly. So there's no, like, it would have been wonderful if there was a screen line between Petaluma and Cotati, for example, but there's not. And had we known that they were going to do the analysis this way based on that initial discussion a year and a half ago, I think we would have really put our foot down. Because remember, we all had that conversation here about Novato versus Petaluma. And it's really become clear that Novato as a standalone zone has really not informed the discussion any compared to what Petaluma probably would have. Live and learn.
Have you all seen the screen line stuff? I don't know what they've sent out.
I don't know that they've shared it with anyone.
Can I
They didn't.
share it on
Yeah, I
the
mean,
screen?
it's been shared with the PMT, but I don't think it's gone to anything publicly facing.
It doesn't make any sense to me. I'll say that. Yeah, the tracks that are shown as having the highest demand are huge rural tracks of it in development. So I think it has to do with the way that
It's with the way
travel
that
shed is
and
modeled.
yeah, and I think that's where that deficiency of just having Sonoma County in the single shed is really.
Yeah.
Because what it does is it ends up kind of lighting up some of those, like, I'll say east of Petaluma
Yeah,
rural
it's all around
zones.
like highway. I was staring at it thinking, is this because of trips on like highway? But that wouldn't make sense because there's a one-on-one screen.
Right,
Is
yeah.
it based on surveys or like metadata, big data?
It's replica data, so not Streetlight, but Replica, which I guess is another company that does this sort of work.
Is it capturing point to point or is it maybe higher because through traffic?
It's supposed to be
Those
point to
areas?
point. So there's actually like a zoomed out, like for each screen line, they actually have a map that does encompass all 9 counties of the Bay Area. And so you could see if it could be something way off of the screen line that'll still light up as a slightly darker shade. The categories are also kind of broad in terms of, something might just trip a darker color on the map, but there's still, a range within that color zone. So I think that's where the additional travel shed analysis will come into play, because that should help explain some of the information, because screen line analysis is like a 24-hour period. So, it's going to have a lot of color in both directions, but obviously you can't look at the screen line analysis and just know, oh, it's southbound in the morning, northbound in the afternoon, or something like that.
But I also just want to say that we're still going back and forth with MTC over, so they did a gap analysis, and I mentioned that before. And there was a gap identified in the North Bay between the Santa Rosa node and Novato. But the Santa Rosa node includes everything from Petaluma to Hillsborough. Okay? And so there's this gap identified, which means, oh, we're going to give attention to this section. And then they say, gaps addressed by known projects, right? Bucket 1 projects that already exist within the plan barrier framework. Golden Gate Express Bus Project, Sonoma Transit Frequency Project. So that placeholder line for Sonoma County Transit, not just Sonoma Transit, Sonoma Bus Frequency, right? That's a real project that's in MTC.
You submitted, yep.
Been submitted, and is carrying weight for the region in terms of meeting the need. Okay, so I just think it's important that we understand how that project's actually going to be carried out in the North Bay, because right now, as for SMART, we are trying to get extension to Galesburg and Glengarry, right? And what they're saying to us is, no, the gap's already met by this project. So,
But
I want
that
I want
project,
that project to exist.
that project doesn't, the Sonoma County bus project doesn't go to Novato.
Right.
So how does that meet the need? They're saying feeder service to then Golden Gate
Yeah,
Express
that was the
service?
part that was unclear to, I think, both of us.
Yeah.
Because all I could interpret it is as feeder service to Smart or Golden Gate to bridge that gap, but I don't know how realistic that is,
Right.
frankly, so.
Yeah.
And, I mean, our express bus project does actually have,
Yeah.
service crossing, so that makes sense, but
Mhm.
I mean, the Sonoma County bus operators aren't crossing that screen line,
Yeah.
so.
I mean, also SMART is a funded project that, I mean, obviously you need to build more stations, but the bus project isn't
Well, that's true.
a
Yeah.
project that's gonna be funded.
And
Let's
this,
just be honest.
these are largely these are capital funds, right? This is a capital, I mean, sure, there's some operating, but it's largely a capital project, so. I mean, that's what I asked them, right? Our operating funds identified for this project. We want to support that. We want both, right?
Yeah,
We want it
yeah,
all.
yeah, absolutely.
But we have operating funds identified for the rail extension.
Right.
So it's a game they're playing. I just wanted to let you know that that is one of the things they're using is the Sonoma County Bus Frequency Project, right? So.
And that's, I think this is part of why the NPA is important to actually fall into a point in the process where we can actually utilize it, because they're like, oh, well, it would just be an analysis of the preliminary plan. But the two bus projects would be in there because they're both bucket
That's right.
one
They're gonna be
projects.
modeled.
And so we could model it to see if that actually does accomplish the goal. But if we do it in a later phase, then we miss out on that whole answer of, is it actually the Sonoma local bus operations that meet that need or not? And then there's still that hard conversation to have afterwards about, there's only half as much money just overall, so we're already gonna have to slice bucket one in half. And then there's a bucket two and bucket three to add to that, so there's gonna be a lot of hard decisions to make. And so, to me, that makes it even clearer that NPA is necessary, because we're gonna have to make really difficult choices. If you're going from 150 billion to 70 billion, something's gonna have to slide. So, and I feel like, although officially Emily is representing, Golden Gate's there technically is a large operator, but I feel like we're kind of all in the same boat on that feeling.
Yeah.
Some of the other agencies might not care as much, but I think it's more important for us.
Yeah, I think that the opportunity to have that mascot screen line meeting will be interesting because it will actually engage MTC on what type of modeling are you really doing up here in the North Bay, right? Which they.
We might want to talk before that meeting to get like a list of, we're all on the same page and put a list of questions out to them.
Yeah, the questions that I keep asking the consultant, they're just not answering. We're just not top priority. So anyway, I'm glad that it's raising attention to it.
Yes. And then their claim is if they do the NPA and PPA concurrently, then it's even less staff time for them from the consultant side, but they've been on the project, knowing the timeline, so.
Okay.
I have a couple
Is that clear?
Yeah.
So already have to have a background, even know what we're talking about.
Have they indicated when they're gonna release documentation? We've pushed on it. It'd be interesting to hear how they're using the replica data and have some maps showing the different geographies they're using. That can really skew things in, pretty significant ways. So I know Dana's mentioned it. I'll keep pushing on it too. So being able to understand some of that, I think would be helpful. So that's one question. And the other is, the preliminary network, are those just corridors or lines on a map, or are they including the different projects in that? It sounds like that's going to be the network performance assessment is kind of more where that'll lie. And this first preliminary network is just like priority is it similar to the gaps analysis? Like, this is what my question is. Is it gonna be like, this is a high quality
So,
priority corridor?
so the preliminary network, if I understand correctly, is the bucket 1, 2, and 3 projects all together. The bucket 3 projects are the new ones that we found out from the Transit 2050 plus project exercise. The bucket 2 are the new submittal since Plan Bay Area 2050. Bucket 1 is what was in Plan Bay Area 2050.
Yeah.
So my understanding is that's the preliminary network, and then it's supposed to be modeled that versus a no build alternative. There is originally supposed to be 3 alternatives, but that already got cut because of the timeline and budget. And yeah, so it's supposed to be a fairly intricate model. So it's actually modeling like the actual routes and service levels that are in the project list. So like for us, we had to submit like a big spreadsheet that says, well, the inputs for the model basically, so like an average head weight per time period, what the route alignments are. And so all of that's supposed to be captured in that model. And the PPA, or project performance assessment, is those individual projects. And then the NPA is supposed to be bucket 1, 2, and 3 together compared to a no build. If that sounds right to you, Emily, or Kathleen.
That could be right. I have a note here that says the 2050 baseline transit network for the NPA would include 6 transit projects currently under construction, Caltrain electrification, Gary Phase 2, Smart to Windsor, Smart Runs Petaluma, and 84. Anyway.
That's right. So it's actually not a no build. It's
basically
with
bucket
the
2, I think. So bucket 1, bucket 2, and then I think there's gonna be some comparison to before and after bucket 3, but not with the modeling.
No, I thought it
think
was.
you're right.
I think the
modeling includes all
baseline
of it.
is existing plus known funded projects. So like Park to San Jose, Smart Windsor, Smart North Petaluma, basically stuff that's under construction. Or
It's
the PTA
happening no
claims
matter
is under
what.
construction.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although that even the bar line is still a question. But I think that's in the baseline, right? So, so I think it's that versus the 1, 2, 3.
So that'd be that plus.
Yeah.
bucket 3.
Right. Because I think MTC's assumption is by 2050 that those 6 projects will be done.
But I don't think we have any bucket 3 North Bay projects.
So-
These plus audio stories are now available.
The trigger word. Well, yes, there were 2 bucket 3 items that actually ended up falling on us. One was a midday gap on the Golden Gate Bridge, and one was an evening gap on the Richmond Bridge. And so what we ended up doing is just modifying the bucket 1 project to account for those additional trips. Since we're already doing an expansion project anyway, it's just easy to add, 4 more trips into the model versus trying to have a standalone project that may or may not meet the $250 million threshold for modeling. And then that was that gap between the Novato and Santa Rosa nodes, or well, really Northern Marin and Sonoma County. And that's where they claim that our existing bucket 1 projects met that gap. But it wasn't clear to me why it was identified as a gap if it was already a bucket 1 project. And that's, I think, where we're kind of stuck, right?
And I do think we just need to, I think we could ask them directly, like, we need to know where this gap is coming from in Sonoma County.
Yeah.
And where it's going to in Novato. And there is a screen line between Novato and Santa Rosa. So I think if we came up with an intelligent question that looked at those maps and said, based on what we can glean, we think it's from here to here, and that doesn't make any sense. Tell us why we're wrong. And or make this make sense or something. But I do think we have enough information that we could come up with an intelligent question that would like force them to answer with something more useful. Because that specific piece of data would be really interesting for mascots to know what's the gap between Sonoma County and Marin County.
It was it seems suspect to me that the local bus project in Sonoma County fills that gap.
Yeah.
I mean, that assumes a high level of transfers to Smart or Golden Gate to accomplish that goal of filling that gap, whatever it is.
Yeah.
We can.
Yeah.
Thanks for the information.
Well,
let's give David and Emily a breather and start on operator updates with, Brian.
What's that?
Do you want to start us off with operator updates?
Skip me.
7.
So,
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Skipping right ahead. Transit integration updates. I will start with the Sonoma County bus operator, and then we could move out regionally. We have been mostly focusing on the website development work with Trillium for City Bus's website. It's looking like another month or so till that rolls out. Moving forward with that, we did start up again with Nelson Nygaard just last week. So they're digging into the additional data that they collected late last year before pausing, and we're looking at some initial like internal review of that early March, and still looking to wrap up the entire study by before the end of June. So we should have an updated existing conditions report sometime next month. And that, is a very large document that was put out earlier in the process, but there's been a lot of comments on it, and then with the additional data collection, we'll have that.
You think you'll have
first.
it in March?
Yeah.
That's great.
So, yes, and Kathleen, I know I owe you some response on some questions. So happy to talk to you about that in more detail, but yes, we should have that existing conditions in March, so early March. So that should help inform the mascot effort as well. Let's see.
we're working on the transit app.
The transit app, yeah. They, basically the Royale service should go live. They can make it go live with their regular updates. The next one is February 21st, so they're working toward that deadline, but it's possible that it could be in March. So we should hear on that soon. As far as how, who can access that service, that additional Royale service, we asked them some more questions about how it works, and basically anybody who opens the transit app, kind of within the Sonoma County bus operator service areas should get access to that Royale service and be able to take it with them wherever they travel. So, so that's good news. And, should definitely carry over to riders on Smart and Golden Gate.
And once you're in, are you in permanently?
I think as long as we are subsidizing the Royale service, if we have a 1-year agreement, if we stop doing that, then there would be a paywall that would come up for a transit app user where they could individually subscribe to the Royale service.
Yeah, if they move out of the area, they'd be out eventually.
That's right.
Yeah, so
Eventually.
they do audits occasionally, so like if you move, you're a resident here and you move to New York, you'll only carry it with you for a little while before they,
It's kind of intended for like when you travel, right?
Yeah. So just to play that out because I know we had a conversation about, Smart and Golden Gate riders. So say you live in San Rafael, but you're traveling up to San Luis, Petaluma, wherever. And you're opening the app when you're within Sonoma County bus service area, then you're in.
Yeah, you should be in.
Even if, okay.
But then at some point, if you don't come back.
Yeah, you can keep coming back.
Yeah.
Keep coming back. Get on the train, get on the bus. Okay, I keep opening your app. Okay, great.
I had a question on, because our GM asked me and I don't have the full answer, so And he wants to know this week for the regional sign up dates of January and August. So I know Marin Transit switched along with us starting in January. But for this and for the Sonoma County operators, it sounds like Smart, you're also on January and August because you just match our ferry, right? So for the 3 local bus operators, my takeaway from the last time we talked about this was that August kind of was already working for the 3 of you, but there was some question about January, or have the 3 of you decided that you're just gonna do January and August as well, or do you have to do like an MOU with your unions or?
And I think that January and August, just so the county, we may have one in June because we reduce service during the summer.
Right, but you would still have
we still have 2.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're good. We can always add a bid, if it's out of sequence, because our MOU is slightly sideways, because 3 years ago, we negotiated it with what the dates were at that time, then they changed. So, but we're in negotiations soon, so we'll be able to clean it up, but we should be able to, even if we have to add an extra bid in there, we should be able to do January as well. So.
Okay, so, but right now you're officially only doing the August one, not that you change a lot.
Well, let's just say we're doing both.
Okay.
It's just gonna be a little awkward on our end until we get it cleaned up in MOU.
And then Petaluma Transit is.
Similar for us to what Brian was describing, we're fairly open-ended. We're not tied that rigidly with like the MOU. So January, August, and also potentially in May, June.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, I guess the question came up that, all right, we're kind of in that situation on the bus side right now where worst case scenario, we're gonna have 7 signups this year.
Right.
Because we're just not, because we're switching from the quarterly to the 2 regional signups. Plus, we needed to split the middle for the one big one, so we
Yeah.
have an April one. But then January, April, August don't correspond with our previous December, March,
Right,
June,
same.
September. So so I'm just, Dennis wants to know kind of how you guys are handling it. So thank you.
So next year you would be January, August?
Well, we're
plus
doing
April.
publicly, it's January, August as of this year, plus an
Okay.
April one. But internally, it sounds like we're also gonna have bidding an additional 4 times. Beyond the 3 public.
Your
And-
schedules don't change.
Yeah, so the public would never know, other than the tracker.
About the April?
The public will know.
Okay.
How many
Yes, and we are
times-
changing service in April.
How many times you're required to bid for your TBA?
Well, right, it was quarterly. So, and the new contract, I guess, didn't make any accommodations for the new regional schedule. Which, you know, I mean, our upper management has since changed, so I can't comment on what the thinking was for that, but we're in this situation now.
And that's for ferry too, or just bus?
There's just a bus issue. Ferry will still have quarterly changes. They've just rearranged them to be January and August to correspond with the regional dates. And then April and October to correspond with kind of the seasonality of baseball and that sort of thing.
It would be, if there are going to be additional ones, it would be interesting to see if within the North Bay, we can coordinate
A little bit more.
what
Yeah,
the
I agree.
interim ones are.
Mhm.
So like, if you're doing one in May or June, could you do it in April instead? Or could you do it in June? Or I don't know, but I think one of the intents of the mascots was to like cohere on schedule changes to the greatest degree possible, because it's great to be January and August, but if there's a bunch of other changes that aren't aligned throughout the year, it sort of
Yeah.
defeats the purpose.
Mhm.
So I think one goal with the regional was like minimize them. So from the customer facing standpoint, you don't have to get used to a new schedule every 3 months.
Yeah.
But I think secondarily that there aren't periods of time where then the schedules get out of alignment and then back in alignment, where there's like month periods where things are wacky for riders.
Well, maybe there could be some differentiation between bus, school services and non-school, right? Because I know that you do
Mhm.
need to change your services in June to cut trippers and things, but those are usually not the trips that are coordinating with other agencies anyway. So I don't know what that means for public facing information, but.
I will also say for us, we've committed to just January, August, and in our January rider guide that we just published, we just put a note that said this service is discontinued in June. So we basically like anticipated the June
Right.
service change in the January change.
Yeah.
So it is a long time to not make a change, you know, but I also think like for riders, the less we can change the schedules, the better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't-
Yeah, and that's,
And then the issue with the Giants is,
Yeah, and that's the
Never
reason why
ending.
ferry, well, and you know, that's the thing, so the April and October ferry changes are really like Giants related and Sausalito tourism related. Theoretically, I mean, we'll get through this year and then we can see how it went. And it's, you know, we used to not even coordinate in our own agency, the signups, right? Because they were anywhere from spot on to 3 weeks apart between bus and ferry over time. And so, we still kind of have that issue with the April sign up that we're going to have where ferry really needs to do it, to get it to match up with the Giants schedule, and baseball schedule just varies every year, sometimes, you know, by a week or two. But our bus contract really requires it to be very rigid. And so like this year, bus and ferry, instead of being 1 day apart, like they are in January and August, right, which the region agreed that as long as it was Saturday, Sunday, or Monday of that weekend, we're fine. So our buses are at the Sunday and then the ferries are at the Monday. The April change for the bus and ferry will actually be 6 days apart because it's going to be the Monday before the Sunday instead of just the day after. And that's because of the baseball schedule. But theoretically, people who are actually, you would never probably be on a Route 580 or Oracle Park special service. So it's not going to be the same person who's affected, because we really do want to minimize the impact to actual customers who are traveling throughout the network. So that's the goal. And so, you know, maybe we'll get rid of the April sign up in the future and just have it for drivers only. But it's kind of a transition year. It's the challenge. And we have had pressure, so we're going to have to change our East Bay service. Not to jump ahead to item number 8, but since it's already so late, that we will have to make changes to our Richmond Bridge service in April. So we will have an actual public facing change in April, even though.
And what's driving that?
Tewksbury turnaround in Point
What-
Richmond is it's a very problematic area to serve. And so there's basically it's the foot on the ground saying that we have to have express service again in this corridor to bypass that area, because it's such a problem to serve.
right, one more question that I should have answered to. Does Golden Gate have buses timed to ferry? I know Marin does. But
Actually, no, not anymore.
we don't.
Not since COVID, or not since October of 2020. Yeah, the 130 just passes by Sausalito Ferry Terminal whenever it passes by. And we don't have anything in Larkspur anymore, or Tiburon,
Any bus service?
any bus service.
I do think this, I would, and we can talk about this more at the mascots meeting, but getting at this, the sign up versus the schedule change and really nailing the public schedule change piece would be really helpful. Partially because I tried to capture it in a document and this conversation is not what that document says. But sign up for the rider, signups don't matter.
Right.
Like, I don't think we need
And
to
that's
care
what I'm
about
talking about,
signups
like,
and for
we're just-
agency coordination.
Yeah, exactly.
But for public schedule changes, I think that's the one we really need to document. And even if it's a transition period, like document that of when we hope to get through the transition period and recheck in then.
But aren't, like, I thought we were both saying that, yeah, okay, our MOUs don't really match, but we could still do the public facing dates we all agree to. We just might have to add internal signups.
But I think he said April's still public facing change.
Yeah, for us, we still have the April public safety. And the challenge for us was basically from an operational perspective, because we have so much freeway running service, you know, it was decided operationally that we need to have the April sign up so that we can adjust run times. So theoretically, we're not adding or removing trips, but there could be some timing changes, you know, on a long route like the 101, which unfortunately, you know, is a coordination question. But, you know, the hope is to minimize things happening in April. I think our bus division's intent is really more the commute service, because those aren't timed to anything. So like Route 172, if that time changes in April, who cares? Nobody's transferring from a Sonoma County local bus to the 172.
Can we create maybe an online chart? We can all populate it. I think maybe you have a lot of the info, and we can have 2 columns like public facing change, internal only, bid change.
Yeah,
And
so-
then maybe discuss it and nail it down at the next mascot
I
meeting.
think that, yeah.
So Andy Metz has, as part of the transfer plan, something along those lines. So we could probably take that and maybe it's a little, maybe a little bit more simplified than we need for this group, because it's, you know, all
Mhm.
27 agencies.
Yeah. Well, and I'll just say for our part, I mean, I think that'd be great. I mean, we'd be happy to align any additional beyond January and August changes with the sub-region. I've got as a worthy goal. I will just say, and on our end, we're still really struggling with staff availability and we're still a little bit in the area where sometimes we just have to make changes so that we can operate a schedule, we can actually staff. So we're hopefully coming out of that, but that's just.
Yeah, that was kind of a secondary piece that will change.
Yeah, we'll hit January and August for, but there could be some hinkiness in between until we can really crack the nut on that. It's just unfortunate, but that's where we're at.
On the operator updates, did say that?
Yeah, does that include yours, or do you have anything else?
I mean, technically, I think we're supposed to report up to you guys how our ride trip is going, but for the interest of time, I'm happy to skip it, other than things are still going up,
That's fine.
but very minorly.
Right.
And I think that's it for now. Other than we will have an April service change. And Route 580 will be modified because we will now have an express variance that runs during weekday peaks. But my understanding is nothing else is changing, although there was some question about whether we were going to pull one or two of the late night trips on Route 101 into Larkspur Ferry Terminal. And I don't think that question has been resolved yet. I hope that we don't do it, because really we are trying to do January and August only. But there is a chance that there might be one or two late night trips on the 101 that drop off in Larkspur Ferry Terminal for San Francisco people. I'll find out soon. But yeah, 580X will be a big change for that corridor.
I'll go next for Petaluma.
Oh.
Fixed route ridership up 24%. Sorry, Brian. Ferry transit up 17%. Fixed route buses, 4 of them approved by council 22nd, got the PO issued. Our upgraded GMB from Avail is about 90% complete. Looking to possibly do a low-no grant application. Maria, did you have any updates on micro or marketing?
Not right now, just working on the Fare Free campaign and microtransit campaign, which should be launching June, July.
That's it for us.
Good, all right. That's it, I gotta go. Our ridership is increasing to about 25% year over year. And it's on the rise, which is good. We're actively trying to get out of the Proterra bus purchase that we're involved in, and that's why I have to go in a few minutes. We have a contract with 10. We're looking to cancel that. Hopefully that will be accomplished today, tomorrow. Working with another manufacturer to get 12 buses in early 26, followed by 4 in the fall of 26. So it'll be 16 total. We got 3 new 35-foot BYD buses in this week, which will be Roanoke Park Kentucky local service. We issued a PO yesterday to BYD for 2 more 35-footers, which will also be here in 26. We got 4 paratransit cutaway vans that should be here by the end of June.
What brand are those?
Starcraft. And our charging station construction is underway, a little bit delayed because of the weather, but we should be done in July, August. So.
Thank you.
I gotta go. So.
All right. All right, Kathleen, you give an update?
I think we topped 100%, over 100% ridership last month, so we haven't officially reported that yet, but based on
January?
peaking at the numbers.
Winning.
Yeah.
One spot. It's not bringing that chart to my board this month.
Yeah. So that's exciting. And we did finalize our fare study, so we are moving away from GFI fare boxes. And gonna do a drop box. The transition probably won't happen for another couple of years, but as those basically really reach the end of their useful life, we're saying like 2020 and late 2025 toward 2026, we will procure just drop boxes, and we're hoping by that time Clipper works really well. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, and just a quick question, on the Gen Fare, as part of the upgrade that's supposedly gonna happen, I was under the impression that they were gonna force Marin Transit to be a separate contract, so does that sound right to you, or?
I think we need to have a conversation.
Okay, it's because they're not the most responsive. Because apparently nobody else makes fare boxes that are registering, so they just don't care or something.
Yeah.
Truer words.
Yeah. I think my understanding was we asked to not be our own operator. That was,
Especially if you're gonna transition in a year's time. anyway.
yeah, exactly. We're not gonna pay. I think basically we said we are not going to pay to upgrade, because you have to upgrade the software, I think.
Yeah.
And it's to the tune of, I think you guys paid like $750,000.
Don't even wanna think about it.
Yeah, just for the software. So we do not have that money to upgrade our side. So I think we need to figure out a different solution. And I think there's a lot of GFI coordination things we need to work on, because the transition away from GFI has a lot of fair product implications. We have some runway to talk about that, but I think starting the conversation sooner rather than later is probably good.
I mean, at this point, I wish we could, I mean, I had a meeting the other day where they're like, well, here's this problem. Are you okay with it? And it's like, well, no, that's not how that's supposed to work. Can you tell me why it's not working? They're like, here's the problem. Are you okay with it? It's
Yeah.
stuff like talking to a brick wall. So,
Yeah.
and we're paying for that privilege.
Yeah, yeah,
No, it's true.
Paying a lot for that privilege.
Yeah, you have to pay to get a question answered.
yeah. For us, it was, it was like $2 million to replace GFI, and it's like $250K to replace, to just do drop boxes. And then apparently you literally don't never need replacement parts, because nothing moves on them.
Well, I think
They're-
there's one lever,
Go to
right? Just
Friedman's
the.
and get
Yeah,
it.
exactly. So the maintenance also should be, I mean, I think we're losing a lot of ridership data because of GFI dysfunction. And so, yeah, there are some fair media changes that we're gonna have to talk about, and paper transfers being one of the biggest ones. But I think it'll be a good change overall. And then we're gonna switch to APC. So we'll probably be putting out an APC procurement probably sooner rather than later. That'll probably start to move this year. And I think that's it. That's a big changes.
Thanks.
All right, just real quick for us, we have a new Director of Transportation and Public Works in the city. So that's Dan Hennessy. So it's been about 2 years. We've been on an interim sort of thing, so that's exciting. Our ridership is also up. We had a couple months where it was up around 20%. December was 8% up. I'm not sure about January yet. Weekends were way up, which was really interesting in that month. So question. The one thing I just wanted to mention, and there's a lot of bus stuff going on, but I'll save it for the next meeting because everything's very much in flux. I just wanted to mention sort of a coordination thing. We always do something for Transit Driver Appreciation Day, March 18th. This may be something for the marketing group even, but we usually do a social media thing as well as kind of an internal recognition. But if anyone's interested in doing something jointly, just be in your bonnet. So, and I'll leave it at that for today.
January ridership, it's up, I think, 43% over last year. So it's up, but it's not where we were January 2020. Because that was the month we opened Larkspur. And I think it was sunny. So, smart riders, when it rains, they decide not to go or something. I don't know. It's really
Just
ferry riders.
Our ferry riders are the same way as Disney.
Kind of pretty discretionary.
Yeah,
It's
really
kind of
is.
discretionary. And you would think they would still have to go to work like 1 or 2 days a week. No, if it rains all week, they just don't go.
They just don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's.
Do you think it's that they drive?
Well, yeah, or just maybe remote work, right? I don't know. I mean, the lots are definitely more full when it rains, but the ridership's still down. We just have a lot of walk bike people. We don't want to deal with it.
Good that you
Yeah.
walk by.
I mean, yesterday we had awesome ridership, but I think that was everyone for the rest of the month because I think it's supposed to rain the rest of the month. So, yeah. Like, this better be a good day because this is it. So ridership's fine. We've been doing these strategic plan workshops. We did our first 2. They went pretty well. We've been using that Mentimeter interactive tool.
What is it called?
Mentimeter.
Mentimeter?
So, it allows people to create a word cloud, and then we have them sort of vote on different options. It just creates a nice interactivity to Zoom. So it's been good. And I think we have the next one in 2 weeks on pathways. And the most important thing for this group is that we're doing our fare-free program for our seniors and youth starting April 1st. Big deal. Thanks. And for people to qualify for that, do they need to have like a youth or senior Clipper card or just age verification?
Yeah, age verification if asked. Yeah. I mean, the goal really is to get around the barrier to entry that Clipper creates, right? So yes, in an ideal world, everyone would have zero fare Clipper cards and they would tag off and on and we would know who's going where, and we would have all the data. But the problem is that Clipper is so challenging for people to use, at least right now, right? Especially seniors. And so what we hear from seniors is, I want to ride smart, I just can't figure out how to pay, right? Between Clipper and the fare app. And so I'm really hoping for a bump in seniors. For youth, I mean, they understand the technology, but the problem is, how hard it is to get a youth Clipper card, right? You have all these people coming to our offices trying to show birth certificates and stuff. It's ridiculous. So,
Although I recently referred someone to your office and they're so happy. They walked away with 3 Clipper cards and they were thrilled.
it probably took them 2 hours of their day.
No, she said it was perfect. The person that helped them was excellent. I'll forward you the email.
Cassandra is very nice.
I'll forward you the email so she can get some kudos.
Anyway, that's the thinking of no Clipper. Yeah, just to take away that. If you tell someone, yes, it's free, but you have to get this card first that allows you for it for free. It's just not gonna help.
Thank you. All right, does anybody have any other business comments or announcements? We'll adjourn. Thank you. Yeah.
Can you come in person to your office to get a Clipper card? Can you get one live?
Lots of juices.